Oh, no.
When you
Okay.
hit,
Okay. It
okay,
started.
just started.
Yep. Hello, everyone. Welcome to online session of our web conferencing. So our topic today is online learners and their needs. So just a little bit about the housekeeping for today. Feel free to ask questions throughout the session, and you may use the raise your hand function so that I know that you need to say something to me, or otherwise you can keep your talk button off. So this way we have less of any kind of static. So moving on, and so let's get ready, guys. So let's take how about we all turn off our phones, and we can close the door so there's less distraction. Maybe you want to put a do not disturb sign. And let's all take a deep breath in. And just let go of all the tension and the hectic day that you are having today. And all of this energy that you're sending to learn today's session is kind of coming together at this point. So let's get started. So our objectives for the day are, the learners will learn about how to humanize your online classes, how online classes can create the educational experience for the students, and what are the effective ways to build a community online, and lastly, how best to decrease transactional distance. So these are our learning objectives, guys. Moving on. So let's explore what do we mean by those things and what it is that we're going to learn today. So let's do a little activity. So let's do activity 1. So John and Elaine, if you could please introduce yourself and where are you joining us today from? And then we'll get started and I'll have you guys do this activity 1 with us. So go ahead. Who wants to go first?
I can go first. I'm Elaine Morris Roberts, and I live in Springfield, Ohio, and I'm joining you from my home today.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us today. Great. And John, would you like to introduce yourself? I guess calling your name.
Hi, I'm John Cantor. I am also calling in from home, and I'm here in Fairborn.
Wow. So, this is a great milestone for all of us, that how technology can bring us together like that. So that is super. And thank you again so much for taking the time to join us today. So let's list your expectations from this class, and we can just talk about this. Feel free to hit your talk buttons and give me at least 3 reasons as to what are your expectations for this class, and then 2 for your instructor.
Well, I think I would like to learn how to feel more connected in an online learning environment. The isolation is hard for me, so hopefully we can talk about ways to change that and find ways to connect as classmates. And I would like for my instructor to lead that for me.
Okay, well, I'll try. Great. That's a very important and a useful strategy for instructors to know. So great, thank you.
I would like to, I know it's kind of isolating again, similar to what Elaine said, but I would like to see how I can actually be a part of a classroom without having to be, be there face to face. I'm interested in how in that interface between not being there and still feeling like I can contribute and discuss in a classroom.
Yeah, that sense of presence, sense of belonging, and and interaction with your classmates. So yes, I understand. Okay, anything else, guys? I mean, I know I asked for 3 and 2, but you feel free to jump in anytime, guys, okay? So moving on, what are the barriers of faculty and students around online courses? So you guys answered some of those, so great. And I hope I get to address those for you. So a lot of time, you know, initially people were offering asynchronous kind of lecture setting where it was one-way delivery setup where, you know, you would have your PowerPoint, you explained your PowerPoints, and you talked about the material and the contents, but there was no interaction and there was no instant feedback from your students or the viewers. So that's that, and then you have synchronous, you know, classroom setting, which this is what we're doing today. So students are not really asked for their preferences is one barrier that I come across. And the involvement with each other is limited, what Elaine was saying earlier, and less of visual presence, which is, John, this is what you were saying. So hearing and seeing people makes it easier for students to understand content, at least in this medium of online teaching. And I like the analogy that one of your reading authors said, Michelle Pinansky-Brock. She used the analogy of online learning is like a drive-through or a sit-down family dinner. So in a drive-through, you just order something and you go get it, and there's really no connection. There's no community building. There's no interaction, right? And so that's where we can feel a little bit lost. But then a sit-down dinner is where everybody comes together. Perhaps they help each other make that meal, and they sit around the table and they eat together. So the idea is that this is how we make our online classes available to our students, where they feel that sense of belonging and interaction. So faculty gets better student satisfaction when we do that, and depth of learning is present because, you know, we're talking to each other. And as we know, peer learning is going to be more effective because you have your support system there. So faculty also needs to be part of class and be visible, actively engage, and be aware of any sensitive issues with the students. So that brings us to talk about social presence, which gives students a sense of belonging, and trust is the foundation of a community. So, you know, sometimes we're all sitting on fence as to, do I want to jump in and say something? And so that's where we all kind of develop slowly but surely all these barriers, and then distance in our learning, and also get connecting to the other students. So trying to be transparent as an instructor, I think it's really important, and as a student as well. And then for instructors to also share your stories and minimize that gap between a student and faculty, so then everybody feels like there's trust, we can also talk to each other, this is a safe place, and we're okay to ask questions and listen and respond. So the faculty and students both struggle to make the social and teaching presence. And I'm sure you guys have been taking online classes, and that's what you voice. So I'm so glad that I am covering all that for you. And then I'll give you a chance to ask more questions. As you know, as we achieve by sharing stories and being transparent with each other and responding and giving input, is going to empower us even more as students and as teachers. So the idea is, when we do that, we make the students to become teachers. And this is where a community of learners kind of takes place, because everybody feels safe. You're not feeling this distance from each other, and students can ask for help with each other, supporting what students are creating. Because a lot of times I think students can feel intimidated to ask the instructor, oh, I can't do this or that online. How do I do this? How do I join my group? And things like that. So yeah, I think creating that in social presence is so important. So when we talk about social presence, nowadays more than ever, we have such a wealth of information online now, electronic media, social media, that there's so many ways for students to connect with each other. And for faculty and instructors to use any of these mediums to help bridge that gap with transactional distance, which is your psychological and communication distance that people feel when you're taking your courses online. So a little bit about social presence. Many mediums, as we talked about, and it is important to kind of, use this to reduce the transactional distance in your learning. So here's a funny story. I don't know, when I saw that picture, it just made me laugh, and I hope you guys feel that as well. So when I take online classes, this is the picture that would describe how I feel. So, and this is a totally different medium for me. It's like an out-of-box experience. So I just want to share a little bit about myself, who I am, and what do I do. By the way, this picture is from the movie Airplane, and I forget the year, 19-something. So I'm an instructor or faculty at Wright State University, and I'm also a clinical counselor, and I have a small private practice. And I teach crisis counseling and also theories and techniques in counseling and a few other courses. So that's a little bit about myself, and I am just thrilled to learn more about, this medium and teaching online, and I empathize with my students, especially the ones that are around my age and who have not had enough experience with technology, so I can understand how they feel sometimes, and so that's okay. I hope you understand that I understand. So let's see what we have learned so far, or what I've been talking about, if how we can put it into practice. So let's do that. So let's do a group activity here. And John and Elaine, if I can have you guys to hit your talk buttons. So if you could please get in your groups and discuss the common expectations of yourselves as to how do they relate to what you have learned in class today. So if you could please join the group, which is group 1. And if you don't know how to get there, I can put you there. So Elaine is there, and then I'll put John in also room number 1. So go ahead and talk with each other, and then we'll come back in, let's say, 2 minutes.